In the United States, polling stations open in a very tight presidential election that will define whether Kamala Harris or Donald Trump becomes the next U.S. president. In Palestine, at least 29 people were killed by Israeli shelling in the Gaza Strip during the early hours of Tuesday morning. In Venezuela, parliamentarians took part in the anti-fascist platform held during the World Parliamentary Forum Against Fascism. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Palestinian authorities report that Israeli genocidal forces dropped shellings on the Gaza Strip, claiming at least 70 lives in the last 24 hours. Wafa news agency informed that the occupying forces killed 25 people, including 13 children, after bombarding a house sheltering displaced people in the Beit Lahia town on early Tuesday morning. In addition, authorities confirmed the death toll amounting to 9 in the central and southern areas of the devastated Palestinian enclave, where 3 tent camps for displaced persons were targeted. Israel continues its genocidal aggression by land, sea, and air against the Gaza Strip since October 7, 2023, bringing about 43,374 deaths and injuring over 102,000 people.
They bombed the tent, it caught fire, and they were all burnt. I was sitting in the room next to them. I heard the bombing, so I opened the door to the room and found a fire raging. There was no warning. Israeli genocidal forces bombed them without warning. They killed a 4-year-old boy and a 12-year-old girl, in addition to their mother, who was a teacher, and their father, who worked as an accountant for the local council.
And in Palestine on Tuesday, the Israeli occupation army killed 4 Palestinians during sieges of towns in the occupied West Bank. Zionist troops launched a drone strike on the village of Mutla al-Shuhada, south of the city of Jenin, killing 2 people. The killing occurred while Israeli troops were maintaining a siege of more than 7 hours in the nearby town of Kabatiyya. In addition to these, 2 citizens were martyred in the town of Tamun in southern Tubas. The killing of these 4 citizens brings to 771 the number of martyrs, including 167 children, since Israel intensified its campaigns in the occupied West Bank in October 2023. And the Syrian Immigration Department announced that it received more than 481,000 displaced people following the Israeli aggression against Lebanon. The institution detailed that on Tuesday, some 2,500 Lebanese and more than 1,500 Syrians fleeing from the Zionist offensive entered Damascus. In this sense, the Red Crescent continues with the humanitarian work to protect those that arrive from Beirut to the lodging centers at the border. The Immigration Department indicated that the refugees are being offered food and supplies to meet their basic needs and help them adjust. In this scenario, the Ministry of Social Affairs announces the inefficient policies of international organizations to stop the Israeli aggressions against the Middle East. And in the United States, polling stations open in a very tight presidential election that will define whether Kamala Harris or Donald Trump becomes the next U.S. president. The opening hours vary by state and municipality in the country, but are mainly between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. local time. More than 240 million people are eligible to vote this November 5th for President and Vice President of the United States. As of this Tuesday, 75 million people had cast early ballots, a record high. The United States has a system of indirect democracy in which elections are not decided by popular vote, but by the allocation of electoral college delegates in each state. In this context, candidates Donald Trump and Kamala Harris won the same number of votes in the northeastern town of Dixville Notch. The committee of 6 gave 3 votes to Trump and 3 to Harris. In 2020, incumbent U.S. President Joe Biden won a 5-vote-0 victory over former President Donald Trump. Meanwhile, voters in Pennsylvania comment on their main concern after casting their ballots.
The main issue for me is the continuation of our democracy. I don't want an autocrat. I don't want someone who is convicted of a felon to be the #1 person in our political environment.
America great again. We need jobs. We don't need another 4 more years of high inflation, gas prices, lying, close the border, murder. America comes first, and Harris is not going to support that.
Good lately, but I feel like she's going to put us back together. I think that, she'll put the whole community, the whole world back together again, because we're so divided right now, and she's about peace, and everything that her opponent has to say is like really negative all the time, like nothing ever positive, everything. So I feel like, that's why I'm voting for her, because I want peace.
Meanwhile, in Cincinnati, Ohio, U.S. Republican Vice Presidential nominee J.D. Vance cast his vote on Election Day. This is what he had to say after voting.
Well, look, I think our message is, first of all, we do expect to win, but obviously no matter who wins, half the country, as you said, is going to be at least partially disappointed. I think my attitude is the best way to heal the rift in the country is to try to govern the country as well as we can, create as much prosperity as we can for the American people, and remind our fellow Americans that we are all fundamentally on the same team, however we voted.
And in Puerto Rico, thousands exercise their right to vote to choose the officials who will be at the head of the government for the next 40 years. In different polling stations in the metropolitan area, people lined up before the official opening of the centers under heavy rain. In this electoral event, Puerto Ricans elect their governor, representatives, senators, and mayors. A referendum will also be held to decide the island's status with respect to the United States, despite the fact that Washington does not support this referendum. Authorities said polling stations will remain open until 5 p.m. local time. We're now going to take a short break, but first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. We now go back live to hear what Carlos Montero has to say, our special envoy in Washington, on everything that is happening during the presidential elections.
Good afternoon good morning. It's not good afternoon yet. We are close to noon. So far, so good. The election is going smooth. Open the polls at 7 o'clock. They are going to close at 7 p.m. in most of the states of the East Coast. But I have an information, last minute information that's maybe it's going to be important. Pennsylvania, Kamala Harris was last night there. Donald Trump was there yesterday. I'm going to talk about that in a while, but I want to tell you this information, the last minute information. A judge, the justice, they said that in a small county of Pennsylvania, there were some problem with the software. Because it was that problems with the software, they couldn't scan where the people vote. They are going to extend the hours to vote until 10 p.m. From 7 to 10 p.m. That's going to be scary because this is a state that's going to be very important. It's one of the 7 swing states. They can go either Republican or Democrat. And Donald Trump was saying that he's scared that maybe it's going to be fraud. And listen to that. I mean, this problem with the software, that's something common. It happens in any system. But it's going to be extended until 10 p.m. Let's see how we react. Donald Trump, who has a very, very late evening closing of his campaign, 2 o'clock. He left Michigan. 5 o'clock he was in Florida already, where he's going to explain the result. He was yesterday closing his campaign, saying that America is in danger, that foreigners are taking over this country, and they have to make them go back to their country and make America great and America for the American. He said also that Mexico has to help USA to stop this flow of immigrants coming here, and he said if they don't do it, he's going to impose some taxes on Mexican products, 20%, and the problem is still 40, and it's going to go up far as it needs to be to stop the immigrants coming here. Let's talk about Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, she was in a different mood. She was closing his campaign in Philadelphia with a lot of show business, power star. It was Bon Jovi, it was Lady Gaga, it was there Oprah Winfrey and other famous people here. And she said, we need to change the way we look at each other in America. There cannot be so much hate. If I win, I want to be the president of all the Americans, not only one group of American. I'm going to be the president of the Republican, of the Democrat. Everybody is going to be free to say what they think in this country. And today she's going to wait the results here in the capital. Let's see what's happening. Are we going to know about the results? It's going to be very difficult, probably, but especially Pennsylvania is going to close later the polls, so maybe it's going to take a while for us to know who is going to be the next president. I was Ohio, Shady Bounds, the candidate of the vice president for the Republican Party. He voted this morning, and he said something, I mean, I agree with him. He said, whoever is going to win this election, half of the country is going to be upset. The reason this country is very divided, very extremely divided. I never see an election so divided. So what the candidate for the vice president of the Republican Party was saying is right. Half of the country is going to be upset. We are going to be here following the story, following these transcendental, historic elections in the USA. We are going to have a special program this evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time in Spanish, and we are also be talking with you guys in English about what's going on, and as far as we need, we are going to be here informing you guys. Thank you very much. I go back to you to the studio.
Thank you, Carlos, for the latest information. We'll now continue with our news. In Venezuela, parliamentarians took part in the anti-fascist platform held during the World Parliamentary Forum Against Fascism. Parliamentarians from more than 70 countries participated in the anti-fascist and imperialist tribune on the first World Parliamentary Forum Against Fascism. In this sense, parliamentary representatives from countries such as Russia, Palestine, Egypt, Cuba, Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Venezuela attended the event. Also, during his participation, the Venezuelan minister Diosdado Cabello warned about the mutations that fascism adopts to influence the people, and those grow with the support of the media networks and with the financing of the empires. Also in Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro received at the Miraflores Palace the Minister of Communications and Technology of Iran, Sayed Sattar Hashemi, in order to strengthen bilateral relations between both nations. The Iranian delegation was received by the national leader at the Miraflores Palace, thus confirming the relationship at the highest strategic level between both nations. In this sense, the Minister of Communications was accompanied by the Iranian ambassador in the country, Ayatollah Soltani. In the same context, the representative of Iran has held several meetings in the country with the Vice President of Communications, Freddy Ñañez, assuming important commitments to have a communication margin coupled to the new technologies between the Islamic Republic of Iran and Venezuela. In Spain, the authorities are still trying to search for the missing, while the controversy continues to revolve around a possible negligence of the Valencian authorities, who did not warn in time of the disaster that was going to occur. From Valencia, our colleague Sergio Rodrigo with the report.
Vicente tries to retrieve his belongings from his vehicle that he has located after seeing it on television. He saw how the flood swept through Valencia while he was stuck at his workstation. 2 hours after the disaster, he received a message warning about the danger.
If they had sent the alarm at 12 a.m. or 2 p.m. instead of 8 p.m., most people would have been saved from death, and we would have recovered our belongings. What they can't do is send an alarm at 8 o'clock at night. People felt like smashing their phones against the floor. because we were watching the disaster from the company's dining room, from upstairs. How can they set an alarm at 8 o'clock at night? This is a disgrace.
The State Meteorological Agency had been warning of the Dana since October 23rd and repeated it every day until the 29th, when it warned of extreme risk. Adrian received a warning message from the Valencian community 12 hours after the weather alert, but just when the water was flooding the highway and his hotel.
I got the message while the water was already up to my feet inside the van at 8:30 p.m. When the water had already passed the highway is when I got the message, and I said, I received the message quite late.
The government does not want to assess the polemic and assures that there will be time to do so.
We are not going to deviate, despite what may happen with some violent events, absolutely marginal. The Valencian and Spanish citizens as a whole want to look forward and move forward with a huge gesture of responsibility and solidarity, and that is what we are going to do from the government of Spain in coordination with all the institutions.
As the warnings came in, 40 square kilometers of land were affected by the storm that has left hundreds of victims. Whether or not there was negligence during the flood disaster in Spain, the truth is that this question has generated the indignation of the citizens of the Valencian community, who demand responsibility for the worst flood in the last century.
teleSUR, España.
The National Civil Protection System of Panama reported on Monday 5 fatalities from sustained heavy rainfalls and floods in the last couple of days. Authorities registered that over 1,500 people have been affected by the heavy rainfalls, noting that the country is still on alert at national level. Storm Rafael has caused rivers to swell, landslides, floods, trees to fall, and bridges to collapse. The Meteorological Institute forecasts that the intensity of the rainfalls will increase in the next hours as a result of the storm. And in Indonesia, authorities reported on Tuesday that over 2,000 people had been evacuated after the eruption of the Lewotobi Laki-Laki volcano located in the east of the country. The volcano erupted on Sunday, forcing the evacuation of 2,472 people. The lava and burning rocks impacted the settlements closest to the eruption zone, killing 10 people and injuring 64, including 1 in critical condition and 31 seriously. In this regard, the Indonesian Disaster Agency reported that flash floods and cold lava flows could arrive in the next few days. The local government declared a state of emergency for the next 58 days in order to provide aid to the 10,000 residents who were affected by the eruption.
I heard a loud thunderous sound and, as I ran, rocks fell on my feet. They were hot stones and ashes, which burned and hurt my feet, causing blisters and heavy bleeding. The falling rocks also hit my head, but I managed to help another victim.
In western Indonesia, the Riau Natural Resources Conservation Agency announced on Tuesday the birth of a female baby elephant at the Bulu Sina Eco Park on Sumatra Island. The Worldwide Fund for Nature noticed that there are from 2,400 to 2,800 Sumatran elephants left. Thus, they are considered as a critically endangered species as a result of habitat loss, human-wildlife conflict, and poaching. Regarding the newborn calf, vets are providing her and her mother vitamins to boost their immune system and appetite. The head of Riau Conservation Agency shared his view on the health of the elephants. We now have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Cuba, the 40th edition of the Havana International Fair is moving forward, the attendance of at least 700 participants from 63 countries worldwide. On the first day, the Cuban government highlighted that the fair has contributed to strengthening the governmental transformations to curb distortions and boost the domestic economy. Authorities further stressed that the large international participation has showed confidence of international entrepreneurs in the country and confirmed that Cuba is open to the world to bolster new investments, replace imports, and access other markets. Nations such as Venezuela, China, Vietnam, Russia, Mexico, and Spain are part of the international fair that will be held until November 9th in Havana. And Nicaragua is a leader in agricultural research and production in the region. From Managua, our colleague Kenia Doña with the report.
The National Center for Plant Growth is one of the areas located in the Augusto Cesar Sandino National Agricultural Research Center, a pioneer in the production of in vitro plants, allowing significant advances in the micropropagation of Musaceae, fruits, and tubers.
A single bud that we extract from the field from the mother plots can become 200 or 500 plants. What the producers do in the field when they sow a seed in the soil, here it is done in an artificial culture medium. That is to say that we provide the vitamins and minerals and everything that is required for the plant to develop. And once the plant develops, we move it outside to acclimatize it and condition it to the environment.
Each year, this center produces more than 1,509,000 plants that are distributed to producers throughout the country to support and strengthen the national agricultural sector.
Here we create plants free of pests and diseases with a high genetic potential and increased productivity. In other words, if the national average, the producer produces 1 bunch or 24 units per bunch of bananas. Here the material we select and produce should be above 50 units.
In addition, the government of Nicaragua supports producers with the delivery of these plants resistant to the effects of climate change.
This is a priority in the country for our good government in terms of food security and sovereignty, but also the advancement of technology made available to producer families so that they can easily face climate change, the threat of pests and diseases, and also so that they can also face the issue of the market.
Among the successful experiences of this program is the young Eileen Martinez Lewis, who works in the banana industry, contributing to the development of modern and efficient agriculture.
We began to have relations with the center, and we found that they had these varieties that could work for us. We started to study them in an area where we are developing banana in vitro. We are expecting between 50 to 60 units per plant, and we have seen that in the case of its reproduction it has started to reproduce quite well and quickly within the parameters we expected. In many cases, we have 5 to 10 offspring.
Tenemos en muchos de los casos de 5 hasta 10 hijos. That's a sign of that we need to put more water. That's a burn.
So we are happy with that, and I think it is something to value. The producer is no longer alone. We are now all hand in hand to move the country forward.
Nicaragua targets innovation and sustainable development in the agricultural sector, benefiting thousands of producers and boosting the country's economic growth and progress in the fight against poverty.
Kenia Doña, teleSUR, Nicaragua.
Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. Join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.